The last piece to nomenclature that we're going to talk about right now is complex substituents. What this means is it's going to be a group coming off of the parent chain that we can't name using anything we've learned so far. We can't break it down into some simple substituent group. If it's more complex than one of our simple groups, we're going to name it as a complex substituent. We kind of name it as its own entity, and that name of the complex group will go in parentheses. So again, let's go through an example to see how this works. If we start with this example, as always, find your longest continuous carbon chain. So you'll get to here, and if we go down, we can get more carbons. So that's going to be our longest carbon chain. Right, number it from the end nearest the first substituent, so that's going to be starting at the bottom. So we have a 9-carbon chain. That's going to be nonane as our parent. At carbon 2, we have a methyl group. That's straightforward. But then at carbon 5, we have this large complex group that we don't have a simplified name for. So we need to figure out how we deal with this. We almost treat this as naming a separate molecule within this group, and we're going to give it its own numbering scheme. So what we do in this group is we number the longest carbon chain starting at the carbon attached to the parent. So this is a little bit different than our usual rule where we just pick the longest carbon chain, which you might reasonably say is this, but this doesn't start at the parent. So we actually need to start where it's attached to the parent and then find the longest carbon chain from there. So that is carbon 1, 2, and 3. So within this complex entity, we have a 1,2-dimethyl propane. But nonetheless, this is still a substituent, so we don't give it the ANE ending, we use the YL ending. So it would be a 1,2-dimethylpropyl. But as I said in the starting statement, we put the complex name in parentheses. So what we're going to do to write this complex thing as a substituent, we say that it's at carbon 5. So we write the 5. Then in parentheses, I put the 1,2-dimethylpropyl. So that represents the complex substituent. The 5 is your attachment point to the parent. There's one other thing that you do in terms of alphabetizing. So I taught you before, we don't use the di-tri-tetra prefixes in alphabetizing. Well, that actually doesn't apply in the complex group. For the complex group, you just blindly use whatever letter comes first. So when we alphabetize this, we'll do it based on the D. So now we're ready to assemble our name. We start with our substituents. So first, we're going to write our complex substituent because D comes before the M in methyl. So we have 5. 1,2-dimethylpropyl. And then we have the 2-methyl, and we still separate this with the hyphen. And finally, the parent is no name.